It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Indeed it does, and great to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of the show, back after a day off. Just traveling back from the East Coast, so we had special programming yesterday. But we are back and ready to go. A lot of football to get into in this show, both pro and college. Then again, are they really all that much different? We'll talk about that. Huge news from the world of sports media with Paramount and the folks at CBS landing a huge blow in the sports media wars and how that changes the landscape. We'll get to that. And who is America's real team? I want to talk about that in odds and ends. Just some anecdotal stuff from my travels this weekend, both to Connecticut, New York, Texas, and back to Nevada. But we start things out in the NFL, Sam Yarnell, and I have to tell you, I was at the Harry Reid Airport in Las Vegas on Friday night, and it was like Christmas came early for me. I got my wish. I got exactly what I wanted for week 1 of NFL preseason, Sam Yarnell. Because if anybody has listened to this show over the last week or so, I've said the one thing that I wanted was for Shedeur Sanders, with this golden opportunity he was getting, to go out and just tear it up for the Cleveland Browns and make their jobs and their lives really difficult. And Sam, on Friday night, Shedeur Sanders did exactly what I was hoping for, because now you've got a lot of Browns fans thinking he's the next coming. There are others who are saying, wait, pump the brakes. But I want to start there and then move through some of the other great performances from week 1 in the NFL preseason and how they might have changed our opinions a little bit. Start with Shedeur Sanders.
I know that a lot of people out there want this to change the Shedeur thing. I think that the realistic, opinion about it or like the realistic outlook for Shedeur Sanders is still, he's got 2 guys to beat for a roster spot at best. He probably put himself in front. The worst thing for him is that Tyler Huntley came into the game and looked just as good in the same offense.
Yeah, but you know that Tyler Huntley's not the future of your franchise. You already know this. We know what Tyler Huntley is at this stage of his career. He's a nice backup. He's the guy you go to when your starting quarterback gets hurt. He's not the guy. That's not the future of the Cleveland Browns. And I'm not saying Shedeur is 100% the future either, but you've got to take the time to find out a little more after what he did in week 1.
I think it's a product of, like, as weird as it sounds, again, I think the Shedeur start is a product of how banged up that quarterback room is and them not wanting to put out one of the quarterbacks who they do feel will play meaningful snaps for them this season in the Cleveland Browns organization. I think that Shedeur is still looking up at a practice squad spot. I don't think that they'll roster him unless they somehow find somebody who's interested in trading for Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel, which I could not see in any situation. That's the best outcome for him, is he's a practice squad quarterback, and maybe he gets called up halfway through the season, and eventually come week 10, the quarterback room ends up as banged up as it is right now when he gets a start.
I don't know. I think he made their jobs a lot more difficult over there, because anybody who watched that game on Friday night saw a lot of the arguments and criticisms that they tried to wage towards him in this last 6 months of fog that we've seen. A lot of them went by the wayside. I mean, he was making plays on the run. He's fitting balls into tight windows. I mean, what more does that? Here's the thing, if that doesn't move the needle, when we haven't even seen Dylan Gabriel throw a football, when we know Kenny Pickett's been hot garbage his entire career, when Joe Flacco, who I love, is 740 years old and is, just a little younger than Yoda at this point, I mean, if all of that and then watching him on Friday night isn't enough to say, maybe he is a little better than a 5th round pick. If that isn't enough, then it tells me there's something else at play that has nothing to do with the guy's ability on the field. And that's a problem.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course there is, but that's like part of the reason that he fell so far in the draft, I think, undeniably at this point. Listen, I'm not saying that I don't think Shedeur Sanders is not going to start a single game for the Browns all season. It is the Cleveland Browns. Look at how many quarterbacks they average, different starting quarterbacks they average having per season since like 2005. I think they average 3 quarterbacks a season. I just think that like starting the season week 1, it's going to be Joe Flacco. To me,
it should be.
Feels at this point.
I agree with you. It should be in week 1. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. Because I don't think Shedeur Sanders is ready to be an NFL starting quarterback in week 1. Very few guys are. Hell, guys that are week 1 starters as rookies a lot of times aren't ready. And we see what winds up happening in some of those instances. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. But to me, I don't know how you aren't giving it a second look if you're the Browns. Real quick, I have more that I want to get to, and we will in the next segment as well. But Jaxson Dart, if you're the Giants, you got to be thrilled with what you saw out of him in week 1. The 12 of 19 for 154 and a touchdown, Sam.
If the New York Giants go into this, like, they got to figure this out in the next 3 weeks, or I guess 2.5 weeks at this point. If they're going to go, and it feels like they've already figured it out incorrectly, they're going to go into this season starting Russell Wilson while having 2 quarterbacks more equipped to play in the NFL in 2025 than Russell Wilson is in the facility. Absolute organizational malpractice from Shane and Daboll up in New York. Really unexcusable if they start the season with Russell Wilson for me. I don't understand what the thought process is there.
Well, the thought process could be similar to what you're talking about when it comes to with Joe Flacco in Cleveland. Maybe Shedeur
I'd still take Jameis over Russ.
For what, though?
Because Malik Neighbors is going to be a lot happier with Jameis Winston throwing footballs than with Russell Wilson throwing
half of them go to the other team for pick sixes. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't necessarily think so. Jameis Winston's fun and all the rah-rah stuff, but I'm a Giants fan, and I don't know if I want to see him week 1. We're coming back. Hoping to have Nick Ferguson on the show tomorrow, former NFL safety. I get Bill Bender on, too. Talk some college football. Sam, we continue our trip around NFL training camps and preseason. There's more to talk about. Not to make this all New York-centric, but Justin Fields looked good against Green Bay as well.
Yeah, Justin Fields, I mean, for the fantasy players out there, I think Justin Fields, especially if you're in a 2-quarterback league, is going to be a very valuable pick in like the 3rd or 4th round.
We'll do some fantasy.
In terms of regular single quarterback leagues in fantasy, I think Justin Fields is a great sleeper backup quarterback to have on your bench. Do I think that the Jets are actually going to do anything this season? No, Jason, I don't. I don't think that Garrett Wilson is really the wide receiver that they're paying him to be. I think that a lot of people kind of agree that Sauce Gardner is not the defensive back that they're paying him to be, at least within NFL circles. And Aaron Glenn has done a good job of starting a culture change, but listen, when you've got that owner in New York and that culture having lasted for as long as it has, it's going to take more than a season to turn this whole thing around. So it was great. I am looking forward to using Justin Fields in fantasy. There are a couple of interesting pieces on that defense, but the outlook to me is still grim for the New York Jets this season.
Give me your thoughts on the James Cook situation. He practiced before the game against the Giants and then says I'm not going to play when the actual action starts up and they blow the whistle to start the game. Where do you see this James Cook situation playing out for a guy who had 16 touchdowns last year, did nothing for the first couple of years in the league before that? What do you see as a Bills fan? How do you see this playing out?
Well, it looks like it's over as of Tuesday morning. He held out of practice Monday, and then Tuesday morning, Coach Sean McDermott said to the reporters before practice that he expected Cook to practice, and then he was seen out there running through drills in full pads. So it seems that the situation has reached a head in Buffalo, and hopefully it results in James Cook playing an entire season. And, with the amount of training camp he's missed, I think the concern now becomes health.
I wouldn't be so sure, though. And the reason I say that is he came to camp and was practicing. And then his agent said, no, you know what? You take some time. Don't get out there and potentially hurt yourself.
The other side of that is this. If he now comes back to practice without having signed a contract, ending his hold in without a new contract, and then what? If he doesn't sign the new contract, the agent's going to threaten to hold in again. I said it to Diana Rossini. I said it during the show we had her on last week. That agent is just making a mess of this whole situation for himself and pushing other players away between what's happened here. And I believe he reps Shamar Stewart as well, who had the whole contract falling out after he was drafted this past draft.
And Cam Hayward now is talking about potentially sitting out. Big time, obviously a big piece of what the Steelers are doing. Suggested on Monday he might be open to the idea of actually missing regular season game. Now again, where the rubber meets the road on this, who knows? And I'll believe it when I see it. But he said, my goal is to be out here, and I don't know what's going to happen. I've had to be honest with myself to be ready for every option. And has it gone the way I wanted it to go? No. If it did, I'd be out there playing and practicing, but I'd like to put this in the rearview mirror and worry about ball and worry about the Jets in week 1.
Yeah, so it does. Bad news in Pittsburgh. What else is new? We're at a point where this front office can't help but from tripping over themselves. It's like a bad move at every single turn, Jason. And this is not the guy in Cam Hayward, the guy who's been a steadfast leader of your team for, the better part of a decade at this point. You don't want to piss him off, quite frankly. Like that's just
frank.
Not the guy. Yeah, especially on the heels of the whole TJ Watt thing, just really starting to rub me the wrong way. The way the whole Pittsburgh front office has handled this offseason, handled this 2025 season so far. Just a grim, again, kind of like the Jets. That week 1 matchup is going to be very interesting, except they're in similar places. The Steelers, weirdly enough, trending down, and the Jets trending up, and they're meeting in this same horrible, grim spot.
Yeah, it's true. Myles Garrett can't help himself. Guy loves to drive fast. Doing 160. Apparently it's in the water in Cleveland because we've heard about Shedeur Sanders and his issues with speeding. But there we go. And Myles Garrett was warned about this and said he wasn't going to do it again. And he does, let alone the dangers, the inherent dangers that are involved in that kind of speeding and driving at that speed, which I think he was doing in Charlotte when they were going to play the Panthers. If you're a Browns fan, if you're Browns ownership, if you're Browns management, you just got to be scratching your head saying, like, really, man?
My gosh, how is the guy not learned at this point? Let me just read you something, courtesy of our friend Brad Stainbrook. Speeds that Myles Garrett has been ticketed at since being drafted in Cleveland.
Yeah.
He was going 120 in a 70. He was going 99 in a 70. He was going 91 in a 60. He was going 100 in a 60 in April of 2020. He was going 60 in a 45 when he rolled his car and crashed it. That's when he said he was done doing this. And then over the weekend, again, 100 in a 60, which, if that sounds familiar, it's because in April 2020, he was caught doing the same speed in the same zone. I don't know what to say at this point. You're rich enough, brother. You just got paid. Hire a driver. It's not that hard.
Last but not least, and we only have a second on this, and I suspect we'll do more on it in the future. John Gruden wins a very interesting court ruling in my new home state of Nevada in this NFL email suit, and there's going to be discovery. Oh, and they will discover some interesting things when it comes to who and how these emails leaked out that showed John Gruden to say things and talk about things that probably shouldn't have been talked about over emails, and put himself in a position to basically be banned from the league, sort of this shadow ban that's taking place. Bottom line to me, though, Sam, John Gruden's still a bad guy. He's still a phony and a fake from everything we knew about him. But the NFL, he's saying, if I'm going down, you're all coming with me.
We're going to learn more bad stuff about Dan Snyder. John Gruden is not coming back to the NFL, and Roger Goodell might lose his job.
Ooh, that's a tease. We'll definitely have to drill down into that in the days ahead. We're coming back. Fantasy football next. Welcome back to the show. Coming up in 10 minutes, some college football to talk about. An Oklahoma QB that doesn't know the difference between public and private on Venmo. And a line, I mean, it kind of all fits together. A line in week one of the college football season that has raised some eyebrows. We'll talk about that as well. Sam Yarnell and I hanging out, just talking about everything on the show today together. I want to get your thoughts on this. So I saw Matthew Berry over on I almost said Jimmy Kimmel, sorry. They're all friends, Kimmel, Fallon, and Colbert. They all love each other. It's kumbaya. It's not like the days of the late night wars where Letterman and Leno wanted to strangle each other. I'm curious, as somebody who does more fantasy football than me, I'm very in tune and understand fantasy football. I'm not Boomer sitting on the front porch who knows nothing about fantasy football. In fact, the reason I don't do fantasy football is I won the last league I did like 5 years ago, and I retired because I wanted to go out on top. Because who doesn't want to go out on top, right? So Matthew Berry was a guest on Jimmy Fallon. And Fallon loves him, apparently. It's not the first time he's been on. And the question was posed, if you're lucky enough to have the first pick in the fantasy football world, in the fantasy football draft this year, who are you going with? And Matthew Berry posited the name Jamar Chase, which when I first heard it, I said, really? And then as I got to thinking about it, I was like, oh, really? I kind of understand it. And from a lot of different perspectives. I mean, if you think about it, he's got one of the best quarterbacks in the league throwing at him. You know that offense is dynamic and going to score points. And I'll add one on top that Matthew Berry didn't throw on it. Their defense is garbage. So they're always going to have to be either playing from behind or trying to keep up with whoever they're playing against, because they're going to give up tons of points, which means they're going to have to score tons of points, which means Jamar Chase is going to get a lot of targets. Sam, if not Jamar Chase, then who are you going with? And I ask you this as somebody who recently was lucky enough to get a number one overall pick in fantasy football.
Yeah, so the answer is Jamar Chase. It will always be Jamar Chase all the way up until the season starts. If you're doing a fantasy draft and Jamar Chase doesn't go first overall, you're either friends with a parent of whoever went first overall, or you need to call the police. So currently Jamar Chase being drafted as the consensus number one overall pick in fantasy, in all of fantasy, right? Across Yahoo fantasy leagues, across Sleeper fantasy leagues, across Roto Sports fantasy leagues, and which encompasses CBS fantasy leagues. So all the big names, Jamar Chase is your 1-1 for all the reasons you stated, right? He was my 1-1. I was also fortunate in a different league to have the 1-1 last season, and I went with Jamar Chase because of exactly what you said. He maintains a strong amount of target share. There was obviously the question going into last season about his contract and what that would mean and how he would hold up over the course of, a long season. The fact of the matter is, whenever you have a wide receiver win a triple crown, they're going to be the first overall pick in fantasy next year, especially in point per reception fantasy. If you're playing half PPR, I guess there could be an argument to be made that you could want a running back, but even still, Jamar Chase is just that good that Yeah, he is going to be the number one overall pick. 2 is where it gets interesting for me. I like Bijan Robinson. I could 100% see people taking Justin Jefferson. That makes a
Bijan
lot of sense. There is a
Robinson.
ton of hype around Jahmyr Gibbs, which I still don't understand, even to this day, considering the lack of touchdown equity he has. And then obviously the Saquon Barkley is the controversial topic in fantasy this season because of the history that running backs have coming off of 2,000-yard seasons.
Bijan Robinson? Really? I don't know why
Yes.
I don't know why I don't see it. I don't know why I don't see it.
Bijan Robinson currently has an average draft position of 2.7. So that's where
That
he's being
feels
taken on
high to
average.
me. That might be where he's being taken. To me, it feels high to me. It just does.
He is that offense. And there's not a lot of defense there.
But guess what? That means teams are going to stuff the box and say, Michael Penix, you go and beat us. With Kyle Pitts Sr.
Well, he did do that in Michael Penix's defense. He did do that when he was given the opportunity in the last 3 games of last season. And I think there's a lot of stock being taken by that. But listen, Jason, you posited an interesting question to me in the break, and I shared with you some information. In one of my leagues over this past weekend, we had our little drawing to see what the draft order would be for this upcoming season. And obviously the odds to win the drawing are based on the last season's standings. It's much like a draft lottery. I won the first overall pick. Now, a lot of you would be thinking, oh, you must have been so happy. Jamar Chase. I wanted to make things a little interesting. So I asked around the league. I consulted with all the different commissioners, and I actually traded out of the first overall draft position because I hate having to make a pick and then waiting 22 picks to make another pick. So I took the 11th overall draft position because, quite frankly, I think it's a lot easier to build a competitive team that could win a championship this year in 2025 from draft position 11 than I do from draft position 1.
You gave up number 1?
I swapped it.
Oh.
So I swapped what? Number 1 and number 24 for number 11 and number 14. I think that's a pretty good trade.
Oh, you and the Mavericks. You and Nico Harrison. Going to go down in history. And not in a good way. I'll give you a couple of sleepers. I like DeAndre Swift. I like DeAndre Swift behind that rebuilt offensive line in Chicago. I have to be honest, the last couple of days got me jazzed up about maybe doing fantasy football. I've had every year I get people inviting me, obviously, because who wouldn't want Jason Page in their league? It's like Club and Baby Seals beating up on me because I'm just, I'm a dum-dum. I'll draft Joe Flacco somewhere in this thing. I mean, look, I think DeAndre Swift is a really good. I'll go Cortland Sutton too. If you believe all the hype on the Broncos, then you got to believe in Cortland Sutton. It's another guy. We're going to do, I promise this. I was bad. I was a bad host last year for this show. We obviously do a lot of the sports football and the betting and stuff like that. We didn't do anything with fantasy football. I am going to make it a priority for us to do a fantasy football segment every week on the show. Promise. All right, but we're coming back. There is more football to talk about. From the collegiate ranks, you're going to want to hear about this one next. Welcome back to SportsWrap. Good to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of the show. We were off yesterday, so we're playing catch-up. Sammy Arnell, let's talk college football. Folks in Oklahoma probably wish we weren't talking about this story. It almost feels like it had to be fake. It almost feels like somebody had to have just, made some AI version of John Mateer's Venmo account and put something like this out there. The Oklahoma quarterback, there are allegations of sports betting from him tied to a Venmo account and a screenshot of his Venmo account from 2022. Now, for people who don't understand, when it comes to Venmo, when you pay somebody back money, it gives you the option to post it publicly. I don't know why that's even an option. It's the dumbest thing in the world to me that Venmo does this, that you can make public why you're paying somebody back. You know, hey, a slice of pizza. You know, it's just the dumbest things in the world. But it exists on Venmo where you can post that you paid somebody back with Venmo, and you could write a little note as to why. I see this all the time in the baseball card world when we Venmo people money. Well, John Mateer apparently, in 2022, there is a picture of his Venmo. You can see it on the screen, a screenshot. After these shots went viral on social media, it was alleged Mateer had sent money on Venmo to Richard Langdon, believed to be his former Washington State teammate, Landon Roten, allegedly for the purposes of betting on sports. Now, none of this is confirmed. I'm sure it's going to be investigated. But the screenshots certainly don't help his cause that he allegedly wrote for the two transactions. Sam, paying people back via Venmo and just putting it out there, sports betting, when you are an NCAA athlete.
So, I have a few reactions to this.
All right.
My first one is, this is unfortunately something I could 100% see myself doing if I were a college athlete. And me and the buddies went out to Buffalo Wild Wings to get, wings after practice one day. And we ran up this big tab, and one of the guys put it on his card. And, we were like, oh, I'll Venmo you for it, whatever. And the USC-UCLA game happened to be on. I'd 100% make a joke out of it. Hey, this would be super funny. Sports gambling. And I really, really hope that's what happened. Because if it's not, we are talking about one of the all-time stupidest human beings in sports history. Like, not just football, not just college football, all of sports. This is like one of the dumbest things that you could possibly do. So I am still, until all the evidence comes out and the, trial is all done, I am going to believe and give this student athlete the benefit of the doubt, because I could 100% see myself doing something dumb and stupid, and hopefully that student athlete will say, yes, this was just dumb and stupid and me being stupid and dumb, and also I'm dumb and stupid, but I didn't actually do anything illegal.
That's
my hope.
But here's my thing, Sam. How do they prove it?
Yeah.
Especially, it's going to look bad. It's going to be a he said thing. They're going to deny it was sports betting. And unless there is a sports book transaction and not just some offshore thing or a bet between two guys just, throwing money against each other, how are you going to prove it? And look, there's going to be a shadow and a cloud over him, and who knows, how it impacts, his future in the NFL, if there is a future, and any of that stuff. But ultimately, it looks bad. It sounds bad. It literally looks bad when you see the transactions on Venmo. But I don't know that there's much more there. I mean, I hate to say it. Do we think he probably bet on sports and was dumb and put it on Venmo? Yes, but I don't know how you prove it. And that to me is what it boils down to. If you're talking about this kid's future and it being destroyed by one stupid mistake, I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I think that there's a way that it is, right? If evidence is furthered, and like you alluded to it, right? If this is, me messaging my friend, me college athlete Sam Yarnell, star backup quarterback at the Washington State University, messaging my friend John Smith, and John Smith just so happens to have a FanDuel account and happen to place a FanDuel bet just as I texted him, then you can connect the dots and I could see it. But again, until all that happens, I, maybe foolishly, am choosing to give this kid the benefit of the doubt for now.
Texas and Ohio State, a lot of people surprised because Texas is the number one team in the country, and for the first time, barring something unforeseen, the number one team in the country will be an underdog in week 1 of the college football season when they take on Ohio State, Sam.
Well, I wasn't so surprised by the Texas ranking as I was by the Ohio State ranking. 3rd in the AP coaches poll, as opposed to Penn State in 2nd, who actually got first place votes. I get it, but I also don't, because wouldn't you just want the week 1 matchup to be 1 versus 2 and then go from there?
I think all this stuff shakes out. I mean, all this stuff shakes itself out in the wash. I don't get too worked up over what we have in preseason AP rankings. I really don't. It'll all work itself out. UFC making big moves next. Thanks for being with us on a Tuesday edition of SportsWrap. Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes. Just some observations from my 3.5-day trek around the country. From Nevada to New York to Connecticut to Texas, back to Nevada.
Texas?
And wait, what was that, Sam?
Texas?
Yeah, I
can't wait to hear the TSA story.
Oh my God, I'm surprised I'm not in jail or on TMZ. Seriously, it was
both.
It was that bad. All over the use of one word. One word. I can't. I'll get too worked up. There is huge news. It's just so bad. There is huge news in this ever-shifting landscape of sports media, which the ground just continues to shift under our feet, and we're all just trying to keep up with it, and myself included, doing what we do every day here. UFC. I don't know if anybody saw this, had this on their radar, or saw this coming. Like NFL media and ESPN, we all kind of saw it coming, Sam. You know, all the different moves that have happened, Amazon getting the NBA and TNT getting out, like all these different things, we saw them coming. I don't know if anybody saw this one coming. With UFC bolting from its relationship with ESPN and landing a deal with Paramount for $7.7 billion. Sam, how big of a surprise was it to you?
I mean, the deal itself, I guess, was a little bit of a surprise, but the takeaway, I guess, for lack of a better term, but I guess that might be an okay term, you'll see, was that despite all of the efforts from the UFC, from ESPN, from boxing,
I know where you're going.
From combat sports, from just about anything, from the federal government, from just about anything on a pay-per-view surface, they lost the war. They lost the war to pirating and illegal streaming. Stream East, crack streams. Those guys are winners today. Those guys were winners on Monday when they announced the deal. That was the end. You no longer, to see the numbered UFC events, you no longer have to buy $80 of pay-per-views. This is earth-shattering in the world of streaming and subscription services. This is the last massive domino falling. So yeah, that it was jaw-dropping to me for that reason, because at this point it is safe to say a decades-long war between these illegal pirate streamers and the institutions who put on these pay-per-views ended like that. It ended with one $7 billion deal, and it's all over now. It's crazy to me.
The word I'll use is breathtaking. The word I would use is breathtaking. Now, UFC is getting the money up front. That's the difference. They're going to get the same money, except now they're getting it up front. And the risk is on Paramount's side, whereas before it was UFC taking on more of the risk. Now it feels like it's more Paramount taking on more of the risk because they've got to hope that this equals subscriptions, for $12.99 a month for Paramount Plus. That to me is the headline here that, rich people become rich for a reason. You know why? They spend other people's money. They don't spend their own. Smart rich people, they don't spend their own money. Trust me, I deal with this on a daily basis doing what I do for a living now and having my own sports media company where we're creating content and all of this stuff is the people that want to work with you, they always want to convince you to get you to spend your own money or get other people to jump in and spend their money, but they never spend theirs. And Dana White convinced Paramount, you need this. You need something for your fledgling service. And we're going to be that thing. You're also going to give us $7.7 billion for it and hope that it winds up when you just throw your hands up and hope it works out. I don't think ESPN loses in this, by the way. I don't think ESPN loses in this. They've got so many properties right now and so many things on their plate. I don't think ESPN loses in this at all, Sam. I really don't.
Yes, Jason, I agree with you that the company that just had the largest sports league in the world by 10% of it is not a loser in this whole ordeal. No. They lost UFC and they were too focused on the NFL to even realize that they lost anything. I am 100% with you. And, let's be real about what this is in the media space. This is Paramount becoming a bigger, even more so player in the sports media game, and we're trending toward a direction where it's CBS and ABC, and I guess you could throw NBC in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at this point, NBC's got what? The Olympics, and they've got basketball.
And NBA. And
Paramount
golf.
Has, you've got the UFC now, you've got essentially all of European soccer and the UEFA Champions League, and you've got the majority of regional football. So, yeah, to me, it's going to, and then ABC obviously with the other part of that football, along with everything else that ESPN's got going for them. We're in a very interesting time in the sports media landscape.
We are, and there's going to be every week and month because rights deals are always coming up and they're staggered. So these things are constantly going to be shifting. But here's the thing that's obvious: they're shifting to streaming, and if you don't know it by now, you better figure it out. Everything, Sam, everything is about getting into a good spot with one of the streaming companies. Odds and ends are next. Okay, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Tuesday. On Wednesday, more football to talk about. Get you caught up on some baseball as well, in terms of on the field. So we're going to do a little baseball and odds and ends. You'll see. So, a couple of reminders before we say goodbye for today. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the SportsWrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Amazon, Odyssey. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can listen to this show Monday through Friday. On your favorite device of choice, of course. And it's commercial free. 45 minutes, straight up audio. If you're driving, obviously you can't watch. It plays very well on the radio, I can promise you. While you're in the shower, while you're on the treadmill, while you're laying down in bed, planes, trains, automobiles, you name it. It's a great listen. Make sure to subscribe. We would appreciate it. There is also a couple of different ways to watch this show. Aside from the fact that we're on now close to 300 affiliates in just the U.S. alone, with more coming, announcements pending, and also the ability to watch us in Canada. There is also two other ways you could watch the show. Spotify. If you are a subscriber to Spotify, even if you're not, go over to Spotify. You can watch the show there Monday through Friday, again, commercial free. But you can also watch us over on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. It's called the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. If you have not checked it out yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go and do it. It is fantastic. We've got the show there Monday through Friday. It's actually there a lot of times before it's actually available on television. Little pro tip for those that want to catch it early. 45 minutes commercial free over on YouTube. We also have SportsWrap Shorts. Whenever news breaks, even if I'm sitting in an airport in Las Vegas and Shedeur Sanders goes off for 130 plus yards and 2 touchdowns and plays a great football game, I'm going to give you a YouTube short and a SportsWrap short, which will talk about some of the top stories in sports. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to our SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, after a day off, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. It's just purely anecdotal. Who is America's team? And again, this is just my perspective from where I sit as somebody who travels a little bit around the globe, especially in Asia, as somebody who travels around the country, go back to visit my parents back east. I go to California. In the last 4 days, I was literally in Nevada, New York City, Connecticut, Dallas, back to Nevada. That's been my 3.5 days of travel. And when we talk about America's team, there are the teams people talk about. And Dallas, the Cowboys are always in the conversation because it's Jerry Jones. And more than anything, even beyond winning, Jerry Jones loves to be in the headlines, right? Growing up, when we talked about America's team, it was the Atlanta Braves, remember? America's team on TBS. We'd watch the Atlanta Braves. Who is America's team? Purely anecdotal, purely observational from my perspective. It's the New York Yankees. I traveled all over the place over the last 3.5 days. And the one constant was New York Yankees apparel. When I travel around the world, whether it's to Singapore or Indonesia or Thailand or Hong Kong, when I travel around the world, what do I see more than anything? Internationally, Yankees hats. It's that recognizable NY. You see some Lakers stuff, especially in Asia, when you travel a bit. You see less football apparel when you travel in different parts of the world, but that's because America, football is America's sport. And that's a different conversation about what's America's sport. We know the answer there. It's football. But to me, the most recognizable brand still in all of sports, whether they're up, whether they're down, whether Aaron Boone couldn't manage his way out of a paper bag, it's still the New York Yankees. And there is polling that will suggest something far different than what I'm saying. There is polling out there that will suggest that everything I'm talking about is wrong, right? That the Eagles right now, in a YouGov poll, the Eagles at 52% are America's most popular team. Or the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls? If I gave you 10 guesses at who the number 2 most popular team was in polling, would you say the Chicago Bulls? No. The Lakers at number 4. The Steelers at number 5. You got to go all the way down to the Yankees at number 14 to find them, if you want to find who's the most popular team in sports according to polling. That's why polling data to me doesn't really tell the whole story. Because popular to me isn't even just if you like a team or if you root for a team. It's also supporting that team by buying the apparel. And if you want to be seen in some type of sports apparel, what apparel do you want to be seen in? You want to be seen in the NY, the iconic NY. Always. The New York Yankees, they're still America's team. They're still the most popular team probably in the world. No matter what that polling data may say, I'll go with the Yankees. Thanks to Sam Yarnell for hanging out. Thanks to you for watching. Lots of football tomorrow on the show. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube as well. We'll see you later.